So in this demo, we're going to go and read and then write some PLC tags using the Ethernet IP module for Node. And so first thing we want to do, so we declare controller tag list tag a structure, so we can read and write structures also. And then the first thing we're going to do is set up a new PLC with a new controller, and then we connect. That's a promise, so we do then, and then we want to make it an async function, and then we can read and write. So first thing we want to do is get a tag, and on this tag we have to, first thing we're going to do is put the tag name, and tag name is whatever we named the tag. So this video I brought up RS links 5000, sorry, and here is the tags under the controller scope, and let's pick one. Let's do integer 2. This is integer 2 is a 1384 value, and it's a double integer. So we can go back to our program, and now we can go and just type in the name integer 2. And since it's not under any program, it's just under the controller scope, we don't have to type in a program name. And we're not gonna type in data type or anything else, because we're gonna read it first, and then that will automatically get populated what kind of data type it is. So next, we can just do await. We're gonna read the tag. Tag. We'll put the tag here, and then we can show the tag value. We'll make sure this read works correctly. I'm going to save that, and then go to our console. We're going to type node. This is the demo 2. And write in our value, 1384, 1384. Okay, so that worked. Clear that up. And now let's go back to the code and say, let's take that value. So we want to, let's add, so we can take, increment it, say we want to increment it by 1, so tag dot value, just increment it with a plus plus, and then what we do next is await PLC dot write tag, and then the tag, and then we can do console dot log tag value, and so we'll see the tag value after the tag is written. Save that. And then we'll run the script. And you can see the value has now incremented to 1385. So it looks like that works, and that's how we can read and then write a value for a tag. So one thing people do want to write and read strings. So we can do that. So let's go back to our program. Well, let's first find a string to write. I think I have one. Not there. Let's see. Here. Okay, so we got a hello world. So it's called string3. So let's go back to our program. And then we will change this tag to string3. The funny thing with strings is they're not an atomic value, so if you break this out, go back to the string, we can see that the string is actually two parts. It's a double integer and a bunch of small integers. And the length is going to be how long the string is, and the data is the actual ASCII character values. So this is really a structure then. The string is a structure. So take care of that. We will use the structure functionality of the module. So let's go back, and we are going to have to do two things here. First of all, this tag is not a tag anymore, it's a structure. And we also need a tag list. And this is going to hold all the tags that are on the PLC. To get all the tags, we're going to have to download all the tag lists from the PLC and store it in the tag list. So we're going to read I think it's get controller tag list. And we're going to put in the tag list, and that will read all the tags on the controller and put in the tag list. And now we have the structure, and when you have a structure you have to put a tag list in, because the tag list holds all the templates also for the structure. So that's why we have to put that in. And we don't have to put the program name in because, or anything else, because this is under the controller scope of the PLC. And first we'll get rid of the rest of this stuff here. And we'll save that. Now we'll go back to our console window. Let me see, it says hello world with an exclamation point on the end. Now we'll run our script and see we read hello world. Now say we want to change this to goodbye world. So go back to our program. So now we've read it, and with any other structures you would type in you would actually modify each part individually of the structure. But for strings, we automatically know it's a string, and when we write to the value of the tag that is a string, it just automatically converts that value into the structure. So all we have to do is take that tag, that value, and set it equal to a new string. And we can, this can be whatever we want, or it can be goodbye world. Save that, and we'll write that to the screen after it's done writing it to, well, we have to write it to the PLC first, so wait, PLC, right, tag, tag. And now we do console.log, tag value, and this will display the string. So now go back to our console window and we run this again. Now it says goodbye world. It's goodbye one word or two? I don't know. It's goodbye, it's one word here now. So that's how we read and write strings. So one other thing, we'll look at a structure real quick. So let's go back to our code. Actually, let's find a structure, which I made a structure for testing this library, which is called Big Test. And it's a template, it uses a user-defined template that I made called test UD3. If we look down and go to user-defined UD3, as you can see, it is an array of another user-defined template, a single user-defined template, a string, and a double integer make up this template. So it's a pretty big template. You can see the data type size is 576 bytes, which is pretty large for one tag. But that tests some of the calls that make multiple calls to multiple steps in communicating with the PLC to download bigger tags. So if we go back to our controller tag here, Big Test it's called. So let's go back to our code now. And we'll put this Big Test here. Let's get rid of this stuff for now. First we'll read it in. And now we go back to our console window. And we'll run this again. And as you can see, it's actually, when you show the value, it's actually an array, or it's a object, JavaScript object with all the different parts of it. So you see this group 1 is an array of other structures. Structure 1 is just a single structure, and the last one is the last part of the string 1. And you can see in string 1 it shows the structure value of it. It doesn't show the actual string value. So one thing we can do is there's a utility built in that will convert this to a string for us, so we don't have to figure it out. So we can just back out of there, and if you see what the actual value is under Big Test, it's a string, and it should say test in capital letters. So let's read that in our program. So we go back to our code here, and then we'll take the tag value, and there's a utility functions that help us read this value. So utility is function is an object to string. So So now we don't want to convert the whole value object to the string because it isn't. It's just that one part. So what is that called? That was called, we can go back to our structure, and it is under big test, it is it's called string1. Okay, so we just go back to our code now, and we go to this tag.value, and it should be dot string1, and then this should output a string. Let's see, verify that was a capital S. Yep, capital S. And we'll save that. Go back to here. Run this again. You can see an output test. So that's how we get the string out of a template that contains a string, out of a structure that contains a string. And to change this value of test, if it was like if string1 was just a integer or a real number or something, we can just set it equal that. We could just set this tag.value.string1 to something. We actually can't do that. If we wanted to change a specific part of the object, we have to change that whole object separately from. You can't change it individually right in the tag value. So first thing we'd have to do is we'll let the structure equal tag value. So we're going to get that, and then we're going to change it in the structure. So structure dot, let's change an atomic value first. So go back to here. So what's an atomic value in here? Is this number here, 40232. So we got to take this, type structure dot, and it's called just number. So we'll go back to our code, and we can take structure number, and we can just increment that again just to add one. Now we have to take that entire structure and assign it to the value of the tag equals structure. So now that tag has that updated structure as its value. And now let's take this. And now we will write that tag back to the PLC, which that tag contains the entire structure. So write tag, just tag. And then we'll just display the new entire tag value. We'll save that. Now that number value in that structure should increment by 1 when we go back here. So this value right here should increment by 1 by running this code now. You can see before 40233 now. Now if you run it again, it should go up one more, 40234. See? So that's how we write. We read structures, update it, and then write it back to the PLC. One thing we want to do though is show how to change that string value, because you can't just assign a string to string 1. You actually have to use that built-in utility to create the string object when you're updating a string within a structure. So go back to here, to the code, and back to string 1. So we're gonna structure. We can still increment that, I guess, if we wanted to. But now we're gonna take that structure, that string 1, and set that equal to a new string, which we can use that utility function till add string to object. Now you type a string in. And then that is going to be, let's see, we can call it new string text. And so now this is going to actually increment that number and change the string object that's part of this structure, and then we're going to copy that whole structure back to the tag.value, and then we're going to write the tag, and it should update the string to this new text. I'm going to save that, go back to our terminal and our command line, whatever, and you're right, run this again, and it should update it, and it worked. See, so our string now says new string text, and this number also incremented again. And that's how you write structures and update text and all that good stuff. So one thing you'd have to consider though is when you are using this module, you got to be careful on how you use it. So let's go back to the code. I'll show you something here. So when the default mode of the controller is to use connected messaging. But if you are not continuously writing or reading from the PLC, the PLC will disconnect from the connected messaging, and then you'll no longer be able to read or write from it. So if you had a timer or something that was reading this and writing this every couple of seconds, or anything much longer than 250 milliseconds, you're going to want to use unconnected messaging. So to do that, you would just change this to false. And now that uses unconnected messaging. It basically it uses more data to connect, but you'll be able to keep talking to the PLC without having problems if you have bigger delays between communication. So if you're constantly reading and updating and monitoring a number or values on a PLC, you could use connected messaging, and you can either type true here or just the default is true. So that's an important point to remember, because when I first started using this, I left that as connected, and it just stopped communicating, and then I would get a timeout, and I couldn't figure out why, but figured it out, and that's what did it. So using unconnected messenger, we can go back to our command line here, run it again, and you won't notice any difference. It'll run the same. Alright, and that's all I have for writing tags using Ethernet IP and Node. Thanks.